Hey
Hello.
guys,
Hey, everybody.
we are back
Hey. Yep, we're back.
after our long break that we had. It felt like forever. I was
I
just
know it did.
out of sorts.
Yeah, it was
So,
good. It was busy for me though, because I was, traveling and meeting a
hmm
whole ton of people. It was awesome.
yeah, tell us about it.
So just got back 2 days ago from Austin, Texas, where I went to the Hack Your Health conference and went there basically with the Healing Humanity crew. And we were doing a ton of filming. We had a big Airbnb that was like basically two living quarters. One was main house, and then the other was this huge, it was like a barn, but it was like bedrooms upstairs, a kitchen, huge area for socializing. And so a lot of the filming happened in the main house, and then there was like tons of place for us to just chill out, couches and tables and chairs and good air conditioning and fans and all that. It was hot. I was a little worried about how I'd handle the heat, but I did actually quite well with it. Didn't give me any sort of mast cell flare, so I was pretty happy about that. But it was cool. So, and we had the most amazing food. So Ashley from Carnivore Brothers and Brett from Hoosier Carnivore
Yeah.
came to provide support in the form of cooking for us. And when I say cooking, I mean like, oh my gosh, like it was so amazing. He actually brought this massive smoker, which I couldn't eat any of the smoke stuff, but we had a grill too. So,
Yeah.
and he was just feeding everybody, and we're talking top quality, like prime meat, and it was like steak, brisket, all sorts of crazy foods, and we had. And of course, it's interesting because I think because we had such good quality food, we had people just stopping by because they knew they were going to get fed well. It's like it's hard when you're not when you live right, and you the restaurant quality is not that great, and they use seed oils and they say they use butter, but it's not really good butter. So here we are hanging out, and all of us, we have people like Dr. Chafee and Elle and Bella and Matt just show up, and because they're hungry, you know. So
That's
it was
awesome.
really cool. Yeah, it was really cool. So like I was, it was Elle is such a sweetheart, and she's so like beautiful, and got to sit across the table from Dr. Chase, just have a normal conversation with him, and he's just so open, and got
I
to
bet that
meet
was
Dr.
surreal.
It was a little surreal. He's very down to earth and just a genuine guy, and it was cool because like Carrie and Adam were at some VIP dinner from the conference, and they didn't know that these people were going to show up at the barn. So it was all of us behind the scenes support people that were there. And they just sat and chatted with us. And, it was great. And, and Bella is just such a gracious person. She's so articulate. Matt is a sweetheart. But stuff like that was happening the whole time. Like people would just show up. So it was like the laundry list of people that I got to talk to and meet were really cool. And it was really neat too, because like at the end of the weekend, I guess Dr. Baker's staff did not book him through until Monday. They had him checking out of his Airbnb on Sunday. So he crashed at our place. So, so he shows up Sunday afternoon and is like nowhere to go. Right. And so,
Oh wow.
yeah, so he crashed at our place, and it was cool because like when Dave and I met him, it's like, hey, we're neighbors, right? The same thing with Bella. Like, hey, we live 20 minutes down the road from you. And like Dr. Baker lives just literally like a few minutes down the road from us. And so it was cool. We got to chat, and Dave and him, Dave talked about taking him up flying. And, before we kind of went to bed that night, he actually told us, hey, let me get your contact information so we can get together and have some steak. And like, it was really cool. I'm like, okay, this is a little bit surreal. I'm going to be interviewed by Dr. Chafee on his podcast. He sent me his booking link, and got to meet the whole steak and butter gang, all their coaches, and yeah, it was really, really cool. And Todd and Lindy are awesome. They were staying at the house with us, and Lindy brought her daughter. Yeah, it was cool. I did my Monday video with Todd's hat on, at least for the first like 30 seconds, because he left it on the tables. But anyways, it was great. And the conference, I only got to go like 2 days, but met some great people there. And Healing Humanity, where our meetup was fantastic. We more than sold out, and tons of carnivore YouTubers. And Dr. Kiltz is incredible. Got to meet Dr. Ovadia. Oh, Dr. Kiltz gave me his book, and she signed.
Oh, that's awesome. I love him.
He is the sweetest, and he gives the biggest, longest hugs, and he just looks you straight in the eye and actually makes you feel like you're the only one in the room.
Hey, Lynn, real quick, it looked like you put the link in.
Oh, I did. I put it in our private chat. You're right. Okay.
So if anybody else is out there that's read the book and would like to join us, feel free. We each have the link posted on our respective pages.
And Christy's here. I got to meet Christy.
No, that's cool. I wish I would have been able to go. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh, it was fun. It was like Sunday, the third day of the conference, that I just barely just come in and I hear Lynn. And it was Christy. I was so excited to finally meet her in person. Yes. And of course, the first thing she says is, "You're tall."
It's nice to be able to actually, just be one-on-one with people in person that you.
And I met Russ
forever.
Yeah, Russ, homestead that guy. He was there.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Met him. So there's a long list. I'm probably forgetting a bunch of people, but
I knew you met awesome. Russ because I talked to him on the phone. So.
Oh yeah. We did he filmed a little video with us. I'm assuming he's going to post it, and I have got pictures. I think I already put a picture of us together on my channel. Yep, she's tall. LOL. It was a great weekend. Yeah, it was fantastic, and the response for the Healing Humanity movie was really great. So.
That's awesome. That's what's really important. Getting that awareness out there, and just to have people know that like this is coming down the pipeline.
There were
it may take a while to get it just right, but when it's out,
and we assume because we're part of the community that everybody knows about it, but it was being at the conference and talking to people. It's like they'd never even heard about the fact that we're doing a documentary, and they didn't know Carrie, and
it's funny. I was just talking I actually went to a bachelorette party yesterday, and it was from like 4 to 6 p.m. And we rode around town on this, they called it a brew bike or something, or a brew pub bike. I don't know.
God, where were you? Were you in Nashville?
Is that the one where you sit around and you pedal?
They probably have them in Nashville, but yes, you pedal. When everybody pedals, I got up front because I was a little leery about the whole prospect of somebody hitting us from behind. I don't know. It must be the, level 1 trauma center nurse in me. But yeah, so I got up there, and of course I wasn't drinking. I mean, I'm fun at parties regardless. I don't have to be drunk. Like most drunk people don't even know I'm not drunk. So, but yeah, we had fun. And I actually talked to a friend, the sister of the bride, and gave her my channel name and stuff. I've known her for years. She actually met her husband here at my house. They've been married for like 22, 21 years, I think. But anyway, so I was talking to her and telling her about my diet and stuff. And of course, everybody the whole time is like, "Oh, you want some nachos? Here, have some chips and cheese, have some chips and salsa, have, this or that." And I'm like, "No, I'm good. I ate before I left the house. I'm good." They're like, "Are you going to get a drink?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll get a Coke Zero." I'm just trying to like not draw attention to myself.
Yeah.
And it's so weird and it's so awkward. But at the same time, like, I don't care. I'm not going to compromise what I'm doing for myself right now to fit in and have fun and then feel like crap tomorrow. It would be different if it didn't affect me. But I mean, let's face it, most of us who are doing this way of eating, we felt like total garbage before starting. So it's not like we're just like, oh, I think I'll try that, and we know what the repercussions can be like. So anyway, long story short, I told her about my channel. I told her about what I was doing. And she talked to me about like some stuff that she had going on. And I'm like, yeah, girl, listen, you can help that. And I mean, I can't make any promises, but I've never seen anybody that it didn't help. So,
Right. Exactly.
So anyway,
And
yeah,
and people, and it's funny because when you go out, I mean, I've noticed it over and over again at restaurants. It seems like no matter where I go, when I order, I tell the waiter, I just eat meat, and tell them how I want my meat and everything, and no oil. If you're going to grill it on something, just butter or plain or nothing. Just salt. And then next thing you know, they're asking you, like even at the airport, we had to eat something. So I just got burger patty. And the guy afterwards, he says, well, do you want the fries? They're included in the price. I'm like,
yeah.
No, I haven't eaten anything but meat for over a year. It would rip my gut apart. And he goes like, oh, I'm like, no, I don't want fries. I just said all I eat is meat.
So it's just so different. And I recognize that. Like, I remember what it was like when I thought that's weird and like not healthy, but anyway, Charlie, what have you been up to?
I was in Phoenix for work during Hack Your Health, but I was watching.
Oh, bummer. Speaking of hot.
Yeah, that 105-degree weather. But I was
dry heat, right?
I needed to walk a whole mile and a half to find this place to eat that sells meat by the pound. And so I went. It's out in the middle of nowhere, and their tagline was, "You don't need teeth to eat our meat." And it was good. It was good, right? So
okay.
So some nice soft meat, nice tender, I guess that would be good too.
Yeah, it's located next to a gay strip club, so I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm like, I'm here for the meat, not the entertainment. So it was good. Found an In-N-Out burger, and yeah, the rest of the conference was good. I was just proud of myself for being the physical ability of being able to walk up and down stairs in 100-degree weather heat and stuff, and not bat an eye, because 2 years ago I would have ordered DoorDash or something, or done something, or delivery. So it's proud of myself.
That's a huge victory.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge.
There was one time where, there was like a crowd of people. They're trying to get into a room, and I'm worried, like, okay, if I follow everybody up the escalators, I'm going to miss out on there being room. So I started climbing up 4 or 5 flights of stairs, and I was able to get a seat, before everybody else got there. Other than that, I got an interview with Dave Mack coming up this week. So hopefully that'll be published later this month.
Yay!
Yeah, that's all I have. What about you, Carrie?
Well, actually, I mean, I guess it's a good thing. I mean, for the most part, things have been pretty even keel, but for whatever reason, I keep having these water-related issues. So like the other day, I went to get some cleaning products out from underneath my sink, and thankfully the stuff was in a tub and it caught the water, but there was a leak up underneath my sink. So I had to get the plumber to come out. But the good news is that, it was caught early. So there was a little bit of like saturation in a little bit of the wood, but it wasn't enough to like cause like a bunch of mold and a bunch of damage. So it was caught early. So I was just thankful for that. And then other than that, we've hired a new person to take the place, my old position that I was in. And so
how's that going?
It's going really good. And he's very inquisitive, and he's my son's age. He reminds me of my son in a lot of ways. But what's so funny is, like, we were talking like Friday right before we were signing off, and he was talking about like liking old metal, and I was like, okay, I knew I liked you for a reason. Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, it's amazing how many people like those 80s hair bands and,
Yep.
all the
And
old,
these
old
young
school
kids
stuff.
are getting into this stuff. I mean, it's really it's fun to talk about because my grandson, so he watched The Dirt, that movie about Motley Crue, and so he asked my daughter if I ever saw Motley Crue, and she said, yeah, so she texted me because she thought that was pretty funny, and so then I had these pictures of. I've got this shirt that I had made, like I painted. This was like in 1984. And so I sent, pictures of the shirt, like the front where I had painted it and the back where they had signed it. So we had, I had
Cool.
skipped school and yeah.
Yeah, we used to be able to do that back then without our parents knowing like an hour.
Yeah. And so we skipped and went to Cat's Records. And they used to do, I mean, back in the day, bands would do autograph signings. I couldn't tell you how many people I met just going to Cat's music. So lots of good memories there. But it was just really cool to be able to share that with my grandson, that like, yeah, I made this shirt and, the band, like I remember it to this day, we were in line and everything. And of course I was right there in front of them and they were holding the shirt up going, look at this. Hell yeah. It was just awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
Well,
but yeah, so my grandson, but sharing stuff like that, because it makes you kind of a human instead of just this old woman, it's like, she really, like, I remember my dad telling me about, he got to see Bill Haley in the Comets and, and to me, just stuff like that, it brings it to life when you actually know somebody and they can share the stories,
Yeah. Can be shared across generations, know.
Very true.
It's so funny. Like I always tell my kids, you're always maybe past like a certain age. I don't really have it pinned down, maybe 25, 30, I don't know. But you're always kind of the same person inside. You've fully developed at that point and you're just like yes, you mature in your thinking and you grow, but at your core, you're the same person. So, it's I want them to understand. I want them to be able to talk to adults.
Mhm.
When I was younger, I just thought adults were just invisible. And I don't know why that was. Maybe just the generation we grew up in, we were kind of feral.
Oh, yeah. And they didn't include us in their
Maybe that was
conversation
it. Maybe
necessarily.
that's why I couldn't talk to adults. It's because it was just kind of like we weren't really like we were just along for the ride sometimes, but we weren't really included. Yeah, maybe that's it.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
sorry, mom. No, they included me in plenty of other things, but
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's cool. It's cool when you get to talk to kids. I don't know. I think that our older, our parents' generation kind of missed out because it's really fun to talk to young kids, especially when they're really bright. And there are some really bright kids out there.
Yeah, really, for sure.
Yeah, it was great hanging out with Carrie's daughters.
Oh yeah.
Emma and Katie came, and then Emily from the Steak and Better Gang coach, her son came for a couple days, and he's he's a bright kid. Just a really bright kid. And, it's cool. Like you can have real conversations with these kids.
Yeah, you can't. Well, part of it is that there is no shortage of information that's available to them. Like when we were that age, we just didn't know a whole lot of, stuff because you'd have to go to the library and look things up and maybe get on a microfiche.
Yep.
I mean, it was a big ordeal. And
you
now
have to have your parents take you to the library.
They have unlimited information at their fingertips. So,
exactly. Oh, and I wanted to shout out to Robin, Carnivore's grandma. I got to meet her, and that was awesome. We got to spend some time together. I wish we could have spent more time together. I wish she had been able to stay at the house with us, but I know she comes on here every once in a while, pops in and says hi. So I wanted to say, if you do, or if you watch the replay, hi, Robin. It was awesome to meet you. And then she was there with G and Frederick from Hanging with the Browns. And,
I bet that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys hopefully next time can come. So apparently from the 2025 Hacker Conference is going to be in Tampa, Florida.
Oh,
September.
I've always wanted to go to Tampa. One of my favorite content creators is from Tampa. I mean, not that I'm gonna like, get up with her or anything, but just she shows different like areas. And I've just always it's just been a place that I've seen a lot on video and I think would be interesting. So
Yeah. So September of 2025, the conference will be in Tampa.
oh, okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
away.
Okay.
And our Healing Humanities crew, we're all planning on going. So you guys mark your calendars.
All right. Okay, guys. So let's start with this book. We only have 2 chapters, and I'm including the introduction in this. Sorry about the beeping if you can hear that. I'm cooking some chuck roast in the
good.
Instapot. But yeah, we're going to include the introduction in it and then get into the chapter 1 and 2. There's not much to this, but I figured we'd have a lot of catching up to do. So, But so the introduction, the common trap.
Kim, could I wanted to interject real quick that for folks that want to read this book for free, if you go to eatmeatandstopjogging.com, you provide an email address and you'll get like a link to a free PDF download of the book. So you don't have to, even purchase it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
and also just to reiterate too, if you are a member of Kindle Unlimited, you can borrow it for free as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now, actually.
Oh, awesome. And the format is pretty easy to read.
Yeah.
A lot shorter than the last book, like per chapter.
Yeah. And you don't use as many brain cells.
Yes.
I really did like the other book. I mean, I just love reading all of these, but this one is easier to digest, so to speak.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. It's a good break from the intensity.
Yeah.
So before I get into the introduction, I wanted to read this quote that he has in the front of the book that I thought was interesting. A lot of the public is completely unaware that the strength of the message is not matched by the strength of the evidence. So in other words, just because they say it louder or longer doesn't make it the truth.
Yep. Correct. So, I thought that was a great quote to start the book with.
And then, one more thing I loved from before the introduction was this book is dedicated to my parents' generation, the baby boomers. You will continue to struggle if you refuse to abandon the conventional wisdom that's failed you. With an open mind, you can get better. And the reason why I think that's so important goes back to it's kind of like a string of this idea has carried throughout several of our books, and it's that generation was probably bamboozled the most. And like we said, they didn't have that access to information that we had. Like they would have to just read it in books and stuff. And so I feel like we really, newspapers. So they were just fed, this is what we want you to know and think. And they took that on, and a lot still basically refuse to acknowledge that it could be different, that the conventional wisdom may not be actually accurate.
And they are really of the mindset that you listen to what your doctor says and you do what your doctor says without question.
Yeah, a lot are. I mean, some aren't, there's some nuance, but I think they're victims, honestly, of
I think so too. And what has happened, like for example, like just in my own family, people that they just believe everything that they're told and they follow instructions because that's how they were raised. They were supposed to be. You go to work every day, which I mean, a work ethic is a good thing, but you know what I'm saying, though? It's like you just had these things ingrained in you. And so you didn't question, this is just how it was.
And I mean, even the whole work ethic thing,
Yeah.
if you know the history of where that messaging came from, is it good to have a good work ethic? Absolutely. But a lot of that messaging was fed to people
Yep.
to keep them in line too.
To be the good little worker bees.
Be good. Yeah. Go into your
Yeah.
factory job every day for 8 hours, and it'll pay off, and you'll be a
Yep.
good citizen and good, it's
Well, yeah,
it's
and the baby,
messaging that may be good, those are good qualities to have, absolutely. And I pride myself in
Mhm.
being a good worker, but at the same time, there's like a toxic element to it
Yep.
that's from trying to control you and control your thinking and control your life. And we could get that's so nuanced. We could get into that as far as like, is
yeah,
that necessary? Probably to a certain extent,
Well, it's the whole system. It's not just, I mean, it goes way beyond diet. Like, for
Yeah.
example, just the whole system in terms of, okay, credit scores.
Yeah.
When you stop and think about what that really is, I mean, it's just you have this, you borrow money to borrow more money to borrow more money, and
Mhm.
and you get into, and they're making a lot of money off of you with the interest and
Yeah.
everything. And so it's just when you stop and think about just what the system is and who profits from what. And I'm not saying that there's this big conspiracy to just, suck us all in, but at the same time, when you look at it and it's like, well, they're not going to exactly discourage you from,
Yeah.
and as a matter of fact, people have, like for the credit score, for example, I mean, they identify with that number and that's a part of their self-worth. And so when you stop and think about just how that impacts your behavior, and what we're told by society is normal and accepted behavior. And so
Yeah.
that's, the common trap. I mean, we're a part of this whole, we're a part of community. And so therefore we are, what I mean? It's like we're a part of community. And so then we are susceptible to what the community thinks we should do. And we
Yeah.
don't question.
yeah,
It is good to
yeah,
have guidelines, and I can recognize that, but at the same time, you still have to think for yourself.
well, the baby boomers grew up from and were born from the generation that went through the Great Depression and World War II. And I know my parents, my dad was a World War II vet, and my siblings are baby boomer generation. And um, it was very, very patriotic. And it was very, there was so much patriotism going on, at least in the United States. And it was like, you just support your government. And that was the whole thing. And I mean, I
Yeah.
grew up under that too, that be patriotic, support your government. Your government has your best interest in mind, and we're the best country in the world. And it was that whole thing that the corruption was outside of our border and that there could be any corruption within the borders. And I remember hearing all that growing up, and you have to stop and take a look at the evidence and see, is there really evidence to support that? And I think that a lot of times, as going through these books, we're seeing that there was a lot going on behind the scenes that wasn't made privy to the public, that is not in our best interest. And health and our nutrition is just one thing. And so hopefully our current generations are maybe a little more open and seeing that, hopefully. So,
Yeah.
yeah. All
Yeah, and
righty.
that's like I said, no dig to the baby boomers. I think they were more, that they were victims of the bad messaging, and
I think we want to trust, we want
Yeah.
to trust that people that are telling us things are being honest. Yeah.
and a lot
All
of
right.
half truths too, to be honest with you. It's nothing's ever, things aren't black and white.
Right. Right.
All right. So the introduction is called is titled "The Common Trap." And basically, it's the majority of us only ask why when it's abnormal or challenges our opinion. The opinion is based on what we've learned in childhood from coaches, teachers, and parents, and further developed by medical professionals, the government, and the media, forming what we believe, in fact, regardless of the credibility of the source and the validity of the information. These so called fundamentals determine our daily decisions and help us make choices based on what we think we know is right, wrong, good, or bad. When it comes to nutrition and exercise, we follow the same advice today as we did 50 years ago, despite clear evidence that the original message is seriously flawed and has contributed to the highest obesity and degenerative disease rates in history. Not only have these false recommendations dominated our day to day eating and training habits, but they've determined what we think is necessary to effectively shed the pounds and improve our health. And it usually goes something like this. I just need to eat less and exercise more. It comes down to discipline. I eat too many fats. I'll cut down on my red meat intake and start using margarine instead of butter. And he gives several quotes like that. But basically, it makes us look at ourselves as like we are just flawed, and that's why we're weak and we're flawed, and that's why we have this extra weight and these diseases.
Right. It's something that we're doing wrong because yeah. And I like how he brought in this definition of the illusion of truth, which he says is the tendency to believe something is true the more we hear it. And that is so true because, I mean, we've been preached at about the proper, the standard way to eat for decades now. And so people accept that, but it is an illusion of truth. It's not actual truth.
Yeah.
So,
and what year did we say was this from 2014?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that, I mean, that wasn't so long ago. But it really, I mean, it was quite a while. It was 10 years ago. And I feel like we're not any further, than we were then. It's really kind of sad. The information was out there.
Yep.
Right. Well, and I think that YouTube helps, all these social media. And of course, I don't know, where was YouTube back in 2014? It was pretty popular then, wasn't it? But it seems like it's just exploded. I don't know if it was quite as big as it is now.
It definitely wasn't. I think it was fairly new. Yeah. I don't know exactly what year, but I think it was fairly new. I was going to Google it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The first time I was doing low carb, the term carnivore wasn't around in like 2011, 2012. I was doing a lot of research through books or blogs. Those were the primary means of communication, and maybe Facebook. So
2005
that was back was when YouTube started.
Yeah. So, by 2014, I mean, it had been around for a while, but it wasn't like it is today. I mean, people, if you made a video online and posted yourself, it was still considered pretty weird,
Right. Exactly. Blogs were popular, like Charlie said. And, in a chat, I remember chat forums and, those types of things. So, but, so he's, obviously he's explaining like why he decided that he wanted to write this book, but he talks about, the conventional wisdom and common, what's common sense is not really correct. Just because it's common doesn't mean it's correct.
Yeah, and it looks like he had his own little program to go along with this as well. It was called Live It, Not Diet. I wonder if he still has that.
I like that name.
Yeah, I like it too. Yeah, so evidently it was just like, I think he was a personal trainer. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool that he had that back then. I feel like nowadays people are doing that more. They've got their YouTube channel, and then they have their program, and so he was probably one of the early adopters of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I like the quote that he put in here in the introduction from Barry Sears, to the author of The Zone.
Oh, I was getting ready to say that. Yeah, I love that.
Oh, yeah. So I'll read that. He says, there are three things in life that induce powerful visceral responses: religion, politics, and nutrition. Each is based on assumptions, and the adherents of each want to believe that in their hearts that they are right. And of course, they refuse to be confused by the facts. So it definitely becomes an ideology.
Yeah.
And, and we've seen that. And I think it's important too to make sure that we're staying open as well and not turning what we do into an ideology.
Mm-hmm.
Because
That's why
that
I
can
think
happen.
this is so important, what we're doing right now. We're reading
Yeah.
books from people who are carnivores and people who are keto and people who are neither, and they just write books on other kind of related topics, metabolism and health and things like that, because we can learn a bit from each, regardless of whether or not they're carnivore.
Yes.
And that way it doesn't become so dogmatic. Like, I feel like it's loosening up a little bit, lately. I think in the earlier days of talking about carnivore online, people were just like, well, if you don't do this, you're not carnivore. And if you do this, you're not carnivore. And I feel like now it's kind of more of, like Russ Mitchell likes to say, a big tent,
Mhm.
proper human
Yeah.
diet. Dr. Barry
Yeah.
really brought
Yeah.
people together with that. If
Yeah.
you're keto, low carb, ketovore, carnivore, heck, we'll even throw paleo in there for good measure, right?
Yeah.
But if you're eating food that you're supposed to be eating, that your body can identify as real food and nutrients, that's
Mm-hmm.
a good thing,
And I think that hopefully people are starting to see that there is, your own individual metabolic health is really a key factor in what you should be eating.
Yeah.
If you're not metabolically healthy, then, you're probably gonna have to be a lot stricter than someone who is metabolically healthy. You can, maybe get away with eating a few other types of foods that, like, I can't eat, but it doesn't mean that someday I won't be able to.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, then there are some people out there that are, telling you that if you drink coffee, you're not carnivore. And, if you eat butter, you're not really truly carnivore, because real true carnivores in the wild don't eat dairy products, but whatever.
I think there's, with religion, politics, and nutrition, there's a strong identity component to this.
Yeah.
Going back to Kim at your bachelorette party, when you're not partaking of some other items, now your friends are thinking like, oh, why don't you eat that? And you explain it. And, then they're probably being more self-conscious about you not eating than you are yourself. So
Absolutely.
it's really
Yeah,
interesting.
for sure. I barely even noticed. I was like, yeah, I've got some meat sticks in my purse if I get hungry. I mean,
That's true. They feel bad because we're not eating the things they're eating. And I think it's their good nature, though, that makes them react that
yeah.
way.
Yeah, I mean, they were definitely concerned about me. They were like, we'll share here, and I'm like, oh, no, thank you, though. I appreciate it. And I don't go into like, these weren't my friends, these were my friends' friends. So I don't go into the whole, oh, no, thanks. I don't eat that. I'm a carnivore. Like, no, to me, that's just, I'm not here to, I talked to one of them separately, when we were just chatting, but not about food necessarily. But I'm not here to, rain on your parade or make you feel bad for anything you're eating, or, I mean, you're celebrating, do what you want, and I don't like to bring attention to it in that way. I like to just, I'm good, thanks, and then go on with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I usually in social situations, I'll just, I got a medical condition. I react to a lot of food. So I just,
Yeah.
I'm fine and I've eaten beforehand and I'm good. You guys enjoy yourselves and, don't worry about
Yeah.
me.
I think I did mention I have a lot of food sensitivities to the one,
Mhm.
my friend's sister that I was talking to, just to make it less
Yeah.
awkward.
I'll
Yeah,
sometimes
exactly.
I'll just sometimes add, well, I'm fasting for a lab draw tomorrow, and then they'll ask, well, Sunday morning, what kind of a lab draws blood on Sunday morning? And the gig is up. So
Yeah. Yeah. You got to be careful, right? All right. Cool. Was there anything else we need to cover from the introduction?
I don't think so. Let's move on to. Oh wait, here's another good. We have one more good quote. He's full of the good quotes. I have
Yes, he
never
is.
seen a person who died of old age. In fact, hold on. Oh, all right. I've never seen a person who died of old age. In fact, I do not think that anyone has ever died of old age yet. We invariably die because one vital part has worn out too early in proportion to the rest of the body. Dr. Hans Selye.
Mm.
it makes me wonder if old age is like a reason on a death certificate. I don't know. I'd have to research. I don't
Natural
know.
causes, right? They'll say natural causes.
Yeah,
But that's still not
it's not old age, it's natural causes. Yeah. I was
Yeah.
sitting here
But
trying to
they'll
think
say
'cause I've
that
seen a lot of those.
they'll say that to about a 30-year-old who dies sometimes.
Wow.
Mm.
I've seen it's not as often, but it seems like natural causes. I've seen some weird situations where they use natural causes.
Yeah.
Mm.
It must be
All
the
right.
I don't know why they died, so let me bring down there.
Well, and they don't do a lot of, I thought they did way more autopsies than they actually do before I became a nurse. There's not a lot of autopsies that are done. And
Not a lot.
sometimes you think, ooh, this needs to be an autopsy. And it's, nope, not doing an autopsy. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, so he does these by mistakes. Like he names all these mistakes. So mistake number one is, huh?
Instead of chapters.
Yeah. Instead of chapters, it's mistakes. So mistake number one is restricting calories to lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
And basically he talks about how it is still universally accepted that someone trying to get in shape is seeking weight loss, despite the fact that the scale weight is a poor measure of body composition and a misleading assessment of health. And I think all of us have discovered that as we have been on our carnivore diets, because
Right.
you will lose weight. You'll initially you'll lose a bunch of weight, and that's mostly water weight. And then I think a lot of us gained weight after that, and it's kind of like our body. I feel like our body is just having some recomposition,
Mm-hmm.
and however, and I'm learning that the longer that your leptin is, out of whack, basically, it can take you, I think, up to a year to get that all back in order to where your body feels comfortable dropping more weight. So, yeah, I've had to be patient with that. But at the same time, I look at my body in the mirror and I'm like, okay, obviously you look different. Everybody who
Right.
sees you tells you that you look different. And you get undressed, you get on the scale, and then you look in the mirror and you're like, I'm seeing indentations at my waist now
Right.
that there before. I turn to the side and I'm not as thick. So, it's but
Yeah.
then you see that scale number and you're like, what is this?
Right. And he talks a lot about the body composition because he says you can have all these people that weigh the exact same amount and they can all have completely different body compositions. And so the scale weight is really kind of meaningless. I mean, I guess unless you weigh 500 pounds, and of course, yeah, the scale, obviously there's something off there, but you can have, he mentioned like 154-pound woman. You can have all these different body compositions of same weight woman.
Mm-hmm.
And some are going to be healthier than others. Some have too much fat. Some of them are, lean, have muscle, and oh, look at you. There you go. Yeah, there's all these women. They all weigh the same amount. It's in kilograms. Now, where's he from? Is he from the UK?
Oh, I don't know.
Because I noticed that
Um,
he puts things in the
I'm going to make it
metric.
big for a second. Okay, can you see it now? A little better.
Yeah.
So that's wild to me that, I've always thought, even like when you get a same size woman, like same size as in like size 12 or size 10, whatever, they'll look completely different. There have been women I've worked with and they said, "Oh, I wear a size 10." And I'm like, "You do? You look like you would be a lot smaller than that," or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
But it's amazing. Like when you look at all these women, I would guess they'd all weigh different.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's
You would
wild.
never guess. Like some are really slender and others are a little more chunky, and
Yeah.
some are just, I mean, the proportions are different, curves are different. And it's crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to, let's see.
But it's interesting. He did say with a generic weight loss program, research suggests that muscle loss could be as high as 40% of total weight lost. That blew me away when he's like, really 40% muscle loss?
Yeah.
That's not good.
And he pretty much said if you lose a lot of weight on like a eat less, move more approach, and you lose it quickly, that's a lot of muscle that you've lost.
Mm-hmm.
Well, right. Yeah. And he said that, of course, the muscle, is directly related to your metabolic rate.
Yes.
And
And that's another thing. So many people, I think people in our community are guilty of this. So many people are guilty of like overemphasizing the diet part, which granted is 80% for sure. Okay. Like you can't out exercise a bad diet. But at the same time, I think there is a little bit of that's lost on us but we need to be exercising because that will increase your metabolic rate.
which helps you burn.
I know it's been lost on me.
Yeah. I fell into that same trap too. And of course, it's probably because I hate exercising.
Yeah.
Because usually it would make, I mean, I would usually injure myself. And so that would be one of the things. But I think reading this book is going to be good for me. It's probably going to encourage me to at least do some strength training.
Yes.
Because even in the first chapter, what he's talking about with muscle and gaining muscle helps you have a higher metabolic rate, which helps you burn the fat more. And he talks about it. I love how he says it gives you a more attractive physique.
Yeah, and I never thought of that before. I know that's silly.
Right.
It sounds silly. I used to exercise years ago. But if you just completely, and this is what I'm trying to do lately, just completely flip that switch in my mind. Instead of focusing on losing weight, focus on building muscle and feeling healthy. And your body will in turn fall into line,
Right. And isn't that what we're really looking for anyways, is just to have a more attractive, I mean, yes, health, but from a vanity perspective, a more attractive physique is really what we all want, right? And really the scale itself shouldn't make a difference. It's, do we look good?
Well, it's not only do we look good, but what can we do with our bodies, right? So, I mean, I gave the example of walking a mile in 100-degree desert heat, to find a place that was carnivore friendly, basically.
Right.
Walking
You could have done that before.
Playing on the floor with my kid, and not fearing whether I was able to get back up or not. I mean, I mean, there is a bit of the physique aspect that I care about, but I also care about the functional aspect of what I'm able to do with that muscle, basically. So, and Lynn, I like your weekly updates. How you emphasize that it's not just about the scale weight, but also composition changes too, and for that reason, because you can have a 0-degree change on your, or 0-pound change on the scale, but you gained a pound of muscle and lost a pound of fat. So I think that's what we're ultimately after, is that composition change. So
exactly.
Yeah, Dr. Berry talks about getting that tape measure, or what is it? He calls it I don't know, like he'll talk about it. He'll refer to it as something like when you get measured for a suit of clothes or something. But anyway, but because
Taylor's tape.
The Taylor's tape, that's what he'll call it. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I just always called it a tape measure.
Yeah.
But it is really key to do that, because you just you live with yourself every day. And so actually taking those measurements and writing those down, which I'm not gonna lie, I don't do it. I have in the past, I've tracked, you know what I mean? But it's like, I think that's one part of my plan that I'm going to really get back into and just get focused on, because I can get discouraged if I don't see something obvious. And I think that's true of just about all of us. It's just, I'm trying to bulk up. But
can I just say, it's very difficult to measure your own body with a Taylor's tape.
Yeah,
there's a reason tailors do that for you.
It's not
people
accurate.
In the dressing room do that for you. I feel like it's so inaccurate when I do it, because it depends on, like, where on my arm exactly did I measure last time? Do I even know? Am I able to hold it at that angle? Like, you almost have to have a buddy, maybe a husband or a wife, to measure for you.
Or every time I've done measurements and I've put it on my channel, I have someone who's a seamstress or somebody who knows how to do it properly correct me in how I do it. And one of the things that I didn't even think of is, like, especially if you're measuring like around your waist or hips, don't do it yourself, because they said even bending down to look at the tape measure affects the results.
It'll expand
and like I would put my foot up on a chair to measure my thigh, and they're like, no, don't do that. You got to stay straight, because I guess you're supposed to have all the gravity, and even with your arm, let it be straight. And like, so I'm doing it all wrong.
And I even bought one of the good ones that, like, it makes a circle and it connects to itself, so that you and you can let it go. Like, it reminds me of like a retractable leash or something. You stop it at that point, or it'll stop when it gets to that point. But it's still, and it's digital and everything, but it's still like that's more accurate. But where am I measuring on my leg? My leg, the top of my leg is probably this bit, this long. How am I? It's just not, it's not consistent.
And I don't think that means that people shouldn't do it. I think that when you record yourself doing it helps, because then you can see how you did it last time, and you can try to at least be fairly consistent. As opposed to, so I would just say, if you're gonna measure yourself and use that, like, record yourself doing it, even if you don't want to publish it, that's fine. But record yourself doing it. So
think about doing that. I don't know why I record everything else.
Yeah, I'm way overdue with recording measurements, but like I'm supposed to do my weigh-in tomorrow, because it's Monday. I do my weigh-ins. I'm basically confident. Like, last week when I weighed in, it was like, have you gained like 4 pounds? I'm like, this can't be right. The scale can't be right. It must have got messed up, and it must be the change in temperature, because I'd only been there for a few days at that point. But now I'm like, okay, I know I've gained weight.
Was it a different altitude though?
This, huh?
Are you talking about Are you talking about weighing?
Weighing.
Yeah, but are you talking about, did you weigh down in Texas, or?
I did. I brought my scale,
because that's a different altitude, so that's going to make a difference.
Yes, and others all different. But and I had the SPG coaches were telling me, don't even, like, I would not even weigh in for a couple of weeks or whatever. And I'm, because it's like, it's going to discourage you, but it doesn't discourage me. I'm going to do it anyway. So even if I gain weight, because it's like, I think it's important to show the normal ebbs and flows of fluctuations. And of course, when you've been traveling, your body is just exposed to all sorts of different stuff, different food, the stress of traveling. And so,
you get a little dehydrated, or you may even retain water.
Which, oh my gosh, going from Washington where, I was looking at the temperature and it was in the low 60s in Washington. Well, I was dealing with the heat and humidity in Texas. I was probably retaining all sorts of fluid. So, but I think it's important. That's why I think that, what he's talking about with body composition and not being so hooked on the scale is important. And don't let it wreck your mood. You look at all those women that Kim showed that were all lined up. They all are the exact same weight, and body composition is very different. So, so one of the things he mentioned that I wanted to bring up is that there is a misconception that when women try to build muscle, they're going to look like men or look like a bodybuilder. And I'm glad that he brought this up because I have heard that. And I personally have actually said that about myself too, because I don't want to look like a guy, but he did address that. And he said, if you have female friends and acquaintances that lift weights and look bulky, it's they don't eat right. And I thought that was interesting that he said that.
Or they're taking lots of steroids.
Oh, or possibly. But he says people that work on muscle building and maintenance always look better than those that worry about cutting weight. So he's really emphasizing focusing on going ahead and working on building up your muscle. Women don't have the testosterone that men have. And he said that if it were that easy to bulk up like a bodybuilder, we'd see a lot less skinny men with intense weightlifting and supplementation schedules. And there's still, he said it's not that easy to bulk up. So don't let that be a deterrent from lifting weights.
And then I also like to point out that something that he talks about that I think a lot of mainstream people don't realize, and that is, he said, perhaps if they were aware that bone loss is associated with lack of strength and muscle, they would reevaluate their mindset.
Right.
So women seem to battle the muscle maintenance recommendation the most, even though they're the ones with the most risk of osteoporosis. Right. It's you just don't really hear. I don't know if doctors give that recommendation. I would say they probably do, but how seriously do people actually take it? And then even if they are trying to build that muscle, are they eating the right building blocks? Are they eating the right food to be able to properly build that muscle?
That's right. That's right. And he said gaining and maintaining muscle should be your priority in your quest for a better body and a longer life. And he said that there's the phases of muscle loss that are associated with aging was interesting. He said there's a slow phase from the ages of 25 to 50, you have about a 10% muscle loss. But then there's a rapid phase.
There too.
Oh yeah, sorry, guys. That's good. Between 50 to 80 years old, we tend to lose 40%. He said by the age of 80, you will have lost nearly 50% of your muscle. So if you're older than 50, you're in that rapid phase of muscle loss. So it's even, and I've heard people say, oh yeah, after you reach 50, it's really important to do some weight, resistance or weight training. But the numbers are kind of astonishing, 40% and up to 50% by the time you're 80. That's why there's so many frail old people,
Yeah.
And then we were looking at
just that hanging skin, on their poor little legs and stuff, just bottoms, the little
wrinkly bottom,
little man bottom too. It's just that loss of muscle. It's just devastating to the body, really.
I've got a freakish bone mineral density, so I did like a DEXA scan through a Groupon, sale that they had. And I was doing it primarily just to see what the body fat percentage was and how that tracks against my scale. But the other thing they give you is a bone mineral density score. And mine was 9.0, which puts me in the 100th percentile.
Oh, wow. Yeah, go Charlie.
Yeah. Yes. Good.
So,
I learned something.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'll let them in. Well, I was just going to say, I just, I learned something from Dr. Baker that I didn't know about. And this has to do with your muscles, but it also has to do with your HDL cholesterol. So I was talking to him about cholesterol, and, I mentioned that, my HDL cholesterol always tends to be on the lower side. He told me that people with more muscle mass will generally always have their HDL on the lower side, and that's okay. He said it's really people with less muscle mass that are really, really lean that can get their HDL up higher. And so he said his HDL is always on the low end of normal. So mine is too. And according to my body composition scale, my muscle mass is actually higher than normal would be for my age and my height and being a woman. And so he said, basically, don't worry about it. So if you're like out there and you are working on and you're fit and you got, good muscle mass, your HDL tends to stay low. He said, don't worry about it. It's very normal. That was new to me. I didn't know that.
I feel like we just need to stop worrying about all those numbers.
I do too. I mean,
for me personally, I've reached that point. I'm not going to recommend to any of my patients to do that, because it doesn't go with the guidelines. But for me personally, I'm not worried about any of those.
I'm not worried about either, but I'm always curious to learn more. And that was something new that I learned. That was good. So now I can share that with people.
Cool.
Don't worry if your HDL doesn't go up to the high end of normal. All righty. Let's see anything else interesting from this chapter.
And we're still on mistake 1, right? We're restricting calories to lose weight. So towards the end where he's, I like this phrase they had, where people, eating like a bird and exercising like a maniac, which is, kind of the quintessential let's move more. But I was also watching a video by Professor Ben Bickman where he had this thought exercise. He's like, imagine I invited you to my house and I would prepare all the food for you. You just had to come with a huge appetite. What would you do to increase that appetite? And he was talking about like, well, you would eat less and move more, which is the current standard advice to maximize your hunger for that party. And I'm like, well, that's actually what I would do.
Yeah.
So I would fast for several days while exercising a lot. So like running or jogging, right? So that's my son. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, he does talk about people that operate on a calorie deficit and how it impacts your metabolic rate. And it makes me think like I have a tendency to undereat just because I don't get that hungry. And like I'm fed like crazy for 10 days. Like I said, I'm sure I gained weight, but it sounds like that was probably expected because he said that prolonged calorie reduction decreases metabolic by like 20% per kilograms of body weight. And he said 24 weeks of severe calorie restriction reduces metabolic rate by 40%. So, and once you reduce your metabolic rate, it's not like you can flip it right back to the way it was. So that's what happens. And he said that's why what happens with people that they go on these calorie restricted diets and then they start eating normal again and they gain the weight back plus more because you've lowered your metabolic rate. And so now you're basically your tolerance, your threshold for gaining weight is lower than it was before you even started. So he said he had a quote here, but it was only a 6-week bikini season shred up. I'll return to normal and I'll do it again after Christmas. My body's rate will go back and start living normally again, right? And his thing is, no, it won't. Because it's, the more you calorie restrict, the more it affects your metabolic rate. It affects your leptin levels, like you were talking about, Kim. Your leptin promotes fat storage. Increases hunger. And so all of these things are related.
I like this paragraph. It says during the restoration period following a calorie restricted diet, the threshold to gain is much lower, as the reduced burning rate means less intake will be required to create a surplus. A decreased metabolic rate also lowers the absorption of muscle building foods like protein. If a standard diet is reestablished, the synthesis of these essential foods is diminished. So
That was very interesting.
so basically, even when you're giving your body proper building blocks, it's not going to absorb them and make the muscles that it's capable of making because, it's your basal metabolic rate is so decreased.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
it
don't
says,
know if he's going to talk about fasting or not, but it sounds like what he's talking about is prolonged calorie restriction, not like 3-day fast or something.
yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see if he ends up talking a little bit about fasting and how that fits into what he teaches.
So also the paragraph below that, the worst part is that our body reduces its metabolic rate as we age by approximately 2.3% per decade after the age of 20. You can imagine the extremely unfortunate outcome from a lifetime of dieting. So that's wow, 2.3% per decade after age 20. And so it's no wonder that you see these older carnivores in their 70s and 80s that are just like, I mean, their bodies are coming back to life, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we filmed Maggie up in Canada, for the documentary, and I think she's now 83. The footage we saw of her when she was 82, and oh my gosh, she is ripped.
Yeah.
I
She
mean,
looks better than
seriously.
most, like 60
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh yeah, it's like goals, to look like her. And
Yeah.
I mean, she did this, show off muscles, and she's got muscle upon muscle upon muscle, and she's 83 years old.
And have you noticed that, like, these people, like people in our community, people who are eating like we are, it's like it flips a switch in your brain too, where you suddenly you want to learn more, you're more curious, I feel like we become less set in our ways. We're not going to become like these old people that we think of in the past where they're just old crotchety people that are set in their ways and angry at the world. And I think a lot of that is like your body's just starving and breaking down, and
Yeah,
I feel like we don't, as they call it, hate on people as much. I hate to attribute everything to diet. I know you can't, but when your brain has the right fuel, you feel better about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
so you're not trying to judge everybody around you constantly. That's some of the differences I've noticed in, myself and our community versus like other people in society that I come in contact with.
And you tend to, or at least for me, it's like things come up, things happen, but you just sort of roll with it better.
Yes,
You
bingo.
stop and you think, and you can logically look at a situation calmly and take steps in your mind. Okay, well, what do I need to do to fix this? And it's just I mean, eating keto had helped me a lot. But once I discovered carnivore, it was like just that one more notch, just that last click there. And it's just amazing at how I can just reason through a situation now that I would have been panicking. I wouldn't have bothered my kids with it, but I would have been tempted. But I would have been so anxious before, and now it's like I just work through it, and it's not fun. I'm not saying that it's great to have a leak under your sink or have water standing in your front yard, but you can deal with things so much.
You have the confidence that you have the ability to handle it, and it's, I don't know, it's like a brain boost that's just so powerful. And if I stray from this diet, which I have been known to do in the past, not terribly, but I mean, even a little bit,
Yep.
I will get the worst anxiety. I have I had an episode around my birthday, and I ate some stuff I shouldn't have eaten. I had a drink at dinner, and I had the worst anxiety for almost 2 weeks straight.
Yeah.
And,
Oh,
in the
wow.
past, I wouldn't have even attributed that to
Right.
what I ate at all. But it's so
Mhm.
obvious when you eat such a strict diet, it's so obvious when you deviate from it. You can pinpoint it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So, so he's also talking, and he brought up absorption in the last, section that you read, and he brought up the how failing to provide our body with adequate nutrients to eat less calories causes deficiency and degeneration. He said, for instance, by limiting fats because they are the highest calorically, 9 calories versus 4 calories in carbohydrates and protein, we inhibit the absorption of essential fat-soluble nutrients A, D, E, and K, and the synthesis of key steroid hormones, testosterone, estrogen, and androgen. So these are nutrients that our body needs to manufacture, repair, and refurbish our bone tissue, cartilage, and the cells of the heart, brain, and liver. So it's like there's absorption is so important, and that if you're not absorbing the nutrients, so people talk about how all these plants have all these really good vitamins and stuff. But people are eating these low fat diets and avoiding the fat, which is important for absorbing
Mhm.
the nutrients, and so what you absorb is extremely important as well. So it's all affecting. And, we talk about the old people and, they become frail and they become weak and everything. It's just as probably that's when you're really seeing, unless it's people who are highly sensitive who end up with these diseases and stuff like some of us have, they can live a life and seem relatively healthy. And I think as they get older, then the real effects kick in from all like he's talking about the muscle loss. That's really affects them. I mean, it affects their mobility, affects their ability to take care of themselves, affects their ability to participate in life. And the next thing you know, they start getting sick. They end up with all these other illnesses. So it's cool to know that you can avoid that if possible. I want to avoid that. So I hope this is going to motivate me to start lifting weights and, making sure my muscles are strong. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I guess we better move on to mistake number 2.
Mhm.
Mistake number 2, limiting or avoiding animal protein. When you put nutrient-dense food in your body, you get superior performance in return. Similar to premium fuel in an engine, this also prevents the need for future repairs. Unfortunately, many are missing out on essential nutrients because the foods highest in calories are also the foods that provide the most benefit. The perfect example is animal protein, which is both high in calories and high in nutrients. And then sadly, the last 40 years have also created other reasons to avoid meat and extend far beyond calories. Although the rationale is equally misunderstood, the impact on our health and body composition is far more damaging. Um, and then he goes on to talk about how let's see, he said to best illustrate the consequences of restricting or avoiding a premium fuel like animal protein, we'll take a look at vegetarians who become deficient in essential fatty acids, omega-3, vitamins D, B12, E, and A, and several amino acids from relying solely on plant-based protein or alternatives. And as mentioned in mistake number 1, our muscle mass determines our metabolic rate, but also influences our long-term health. Limiting animal protein may only lead to minor deficiencies like anemia and muscle loss in the short term, but this can quickly develop into osteoporosis and Alzheimer's as we age.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if this next section where he talks about how humans need animal protein, kind of turn a little light bulb thing for it, that it turned on, like flipped a switch for me, as far as he asked the question, which I think was a valid question. Could you kill an animal with a knife, rock, or even your bare hands? And I've asked myself that because I'm such an animal fanatic. I mean, we talk about animals as pets. I wasn't raised on a farm. So like, I know a lot of people on a farm would be like, yeah, of course. But there's a lot of us that weren't. But he says the truth is not a lot of us could. But then he takes this further. He says, so since so many of us really don't prefer to kill animals, why in the whole history of mankind was that the go-to that they did? That they would actually go out and battle these wild animals and kill them, risk their lives. Why would they do that if we're perfectly capable of surviving on roots, shoots, nuts, and berries? I thought, okay, well, that's an interesting point. Like, why would they risk their lives to go out and kill these large, potentially dangerous animals if what you could pick easily would sustain us and provide all the essential nutrients? It's because it doesn't. So I thought that was a really interesting point that he made.
Yeah.
That we knew back then that we needed the meat and the fat and the organs and everything off of these, the animals.
And I think we've all felt that, like you can feel it when you are eating such a restricted diet as just eating meat. I can even tell in which meat I eat. If someone were to, let's say someone were to come up with a way to put the meat into my stomach and me not even knowing which meat I had eaten, I would know because I know what my body feels like when I eat a ribeye versus I know what it feels like when I eat chicken. I mean, I might not be able to tell the difference between chicken and pork, but I would know that I hadn't had the good nutrition that I actually needed from the ribeye or the red meat.
Yeah, I feel the difference too, which is why I basically never eat chicken and I don't eat pork.
I like it
because I don't either.
I like pork.
Yeah, I don't eat chicken much. Yeah, I don't eat chicken hardly ever. I mean, if somebody, like if I go to my daughter's house and she has chicken, but I don't intentionally fix it for myself. It doesn't seem very satiating to me.
Yeah, that's it.
It isn't. Like I will on occasion like get the dark meat and eat it like a leg or something.
Mm-hmm.
But that's about the only chicken that I even want anymore. It's like I don't even want like the breast and all of that. And that used to be like the thing that everybody wanted, no fat, and it had to be the whole chicken breast. But it's just, it just, even if it's cooked well, it just doesn't seem to satisfy me.
It doesn't.
Yeah. What about you, Charlie? Do you eat chicken or do you stick with what meats do you eat?
The only part of the chicken I do like is the skin if it's fried in lard. So that's the only thing I'll eat. But brisket is what my body loves the most. So
nice.
Like Kim noticed,
nice. So do you smoke brisket?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
okay, Charlie, I need you to do a video. I know you're not big on YouTube videos, but I need you to do a video showing me how to make a brisket. Because I am clueless and hopeless when it comes to it. I go down to City Barbecue and get theirs.
I love
you got to Ashley from Carnivore Brothers. That dude knows how to smoke anything.
Does he have a video on it?
I need a video. He might. I'm gonna have to show you guys. I'm gonna see if I can find a picture. I'll have to show you guys something he made. Holy cow!
Oh, puppy's so cute, Charlie.
Let's see. Took pictures. I'm gonna scroll through my pictures. Okay, here we go. Let me pull this up and see if I can possibly even share it with you guys.
When did you guys run out of meat having all those carnivores in one place?
No, we had so much meat. We had leftovers.
Oh, that's wild.
And yeah, we ended up hang on, let me see if I can. I don't know if I'm going to be able to present this or not, but let's see here. Let's see if it'll come up. Nope, I don't think it will. Anyways, I took a picture anyways, or the video of what he made for us the last day. So he took, you guys may have made this, but he took bacon. I actually broke down. I took some of my histamine digest, my enzyme, and I actually like ate it because I was like, okay, if this makes me sick, it's worth it. So he made us a basket weave square of bacon. And then he smashed Italian sausage, and a really clean Italian sausage all over. And then he kind of, not fully cooked, but scrambled some eggs just so that they enough to have some form. And he put that in the middle and rolled it all up and made it into a roll and then put it on in the smoker.
What?
And he to cook it. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
It was incredible. It was so amazing. So that's something that you could do. Gosh, I wish I could share this with you guys.
Sounds like a carnivore burrito of kinds.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Carnivore breakfast burrito.
Yeah, it was incredible. So anyways, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to share it, but yeah, it'd be really nice to see, like, to show, because that's something you could do on your smoker. Oh, all right. I guess I'm not going to be able to share it, but
I'm really
it's there's
smoked flavored. Like, I want to get a smoker, but then I kind of think I might be wasting my money because other than the brisket that I eat at City Barbecue, a lot of times when I have smoke flavored stuff, I'm just like, I just don't really care for it that much.
It's higher histamine. So I don't know if it's a taste, but it is higher histamine, which is, some people react to. If I had been eating that way every day, I probably would be having a lot of issues.
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, that was a cool thing. So I know in this chapter, he also is talking about a lot of details about how plant proteins are not the same as animal proteins from a nutrient standpoint. And so
I thought it was fascinating when he was talking about the ALA. Because let me tell you why, Lynn, because my functional medicine doctor gave me an ALA supplement. And I'm like, I don't think I was really looking into it that much when I ordered it. And I just ordered what she recommended. And I should have known better than to do that. But I got this supplement and I'm like, wait a minute. I eat sardines all the time. And why do I need a plant-based version that's going to have to be converted to be used properly? What was she thinking? And it's because she buys into all this, like, plant-based nonsense, basically.
Right. And he said attempting to raise blood DHA, which is one of the omega-3 essential fatty acids, attempting to raise the blood DHA status with strictly an ALA source is nearly impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
it's like I wasted probably $30 or $40 on this stupid supplement. I'm so mad. I just want to send it back and be like, this is not a good supplement.
At least you're eating fat. He says that, and we're going to learn this in mistakes 3 and 5. He says the flawed advice to restrict saturated fat in favor of plant oils inhibit ALA conversion even further. So for people who are, taking these ALA supplements and they're on a low fat diet, it's even further inhibiting their ability their body's ability to convert it to the form that your body actually needs. So it is probably a complete waste.
Which is DHA.
Which is the DHA, right? Whereas
DHA and EPA.
Right. Whereas you're eating the sardines, so you're already getting a really good source of that is bioavailable. So that's good. Let's see. And of course, we know that B12 is very good.
He does not like soy at all, which we've heard in this community. I mean, we hear about soy, but he really breaks it down. And when you actually look at this and you're just like, oh, why are we being told that this is what we need to eat? I'm just like, I didn't realize like how much soy really does disrupt your hormones. I had heard that, but the way he breaks it down here, it's like, oh my gosh, this is terrible.
Right.
I just didn't
soy
realize to
is
that
toxic.
extent. Yeah.
Yeah, he said it's toxic. So,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because he just, I guess it's a misperception that people like in Japan and China eat a lot of soy.
Mhm.
And I thought it was interesting that he brought that up. He says that the Japanese and the Chinese treat soy as a condiment and usually is
Mhm.
fermented, which is the safest form. And he said that a safe amount of soy is only 36 grams per day, but a single block of tofu contains 250 grams.
Yep.
But they don't eat it. They don't eat very much of it, I guess. They eat, they said something about 3 to 13 grams a day for men. And according to the study back, but that was back in 1998. Who knows what they eat now?
Yeah.
Because, there's been a huge vegetarian and vegan push since 1998. But,
True.
yeah, but in the year, 2000, the U.S. produced 75 million tons of soybeans, exported nearly 30%. But yeah, I guess he said that they promote soy because it supposedly lowers cholesterol. So, oh, this is interesting. He said men who consume the equivalent of 1 cup of soy milk per day had a
Mhm.
50% lower sperm count than men who had none.
So that's
So that's like,
true. You hear about that the stereotypical soy boy, and I guess that there's a lot of truth to that.
Mhm.
So it's like,
yeah, that's pretty serious. I
yeah.
mean,
And the
it's a-
fact that they recommend a lot of times soy formula for infants is just I've
right. Did
always
he
thought
bring
that
that
was
up in the
just
book?
not okay, not good, you know?
Yeah.
He mentioned that in the book here, didn't he? About, I thought I remember him saying something about the soy formula.
He does.
Trying to see. Oh, infants. Yeah. So he said infants exclusively fed soy formula receive the estrogenic equivalent of at least 5 birth control pills per day.
Hmm. Oh my
That's
gosh.
crazy. That's
Yeah.
Yeah,
crazy.
because it's a hormone disruptor.
Mhm.
Right. Right. And how it affects your thyroid. Apparently, the isoflavones found in soy, like the phytoestrogens, they interrupt regular hormone functioning and the production of thyroid hormone, which usually regulates how the body uses energy and grows, is disrupted by isoflavones. So it affects not just your, sexual sex hormones, but it affects your thyroid as well.
Oh, and check this out. Let me pull this up on the screen here. I'm going to make it. Did that make it bigger? I was trying to make it bigger, but here we go.
Ah,
There you
there we
go.
go.
So the dietary oil consumption, I don't know if you can read it very well from there, but 1909 is the beginning of the line, and then 1999 is the end. And you can
Mhm.
tell that there was just a dramatic increase in soybean oil. And I mean, I can't help but think that this contributes to a lot of the modern day um, conditions, especially in children that we see.
Yeah.
Because that
In
is
that
those
paragraph,
are hormone disruptors that, they
right.
can, and the phytoestrogens, like, is that why girls are starting their periods, at 5 and 6 years old sometimes?
Young,
Mhm.
too young. And
Like,
in the paragraph below, it
ridiculous.
talks about the effect on men too.
Oh, Fred, hold
That
on,
the
sorry,
that it
guys.
Yeah, it says that it competes the fake estrogen in the soy competes with testosterone for receptor
Yeah.
sites and can display itself in the form of man boobs and other
Yeah.
non-man characteristics.
That's why even the fat, like even the way we look fat is different now. I noticed that probably about 20 years ago, I noticed that like when we were in school, if somebody was fat, they were fat. Like they were just overweight like pretty much everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
But and then about 20 years ago, you would see these young people like 15, 16 years old that they would be super skinny everywhere else and then they would just have a big belly. It was the
Muffin
strangest
top.
thing. Yeah, it was the strangest thing. I was like, these are little girls and then they've just got this pooch right it just didn't like it was such a dramatic difference from the way people looked when we were children that,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't judging them or anything. It was very obvious, you know? Um,
Or the
I
dad bod.
and I knew there had to have been something, like some sort of like something was wrong with the hormones. There was some
Yeah.
reason that this was happening. And I don't know why we still don't know definitively, you know?
Yeah, some guys like have like the dad bod, right? So they're like skinny on the arms and legs, and then they got like this big belly, essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
Looks really
Right.
odd because it's not proportional at all. So
And that's like a hormonal symptom too,
Yeah.
because like, with what is it, Addison's or what is the one where the cortisol, um, Lynn, where you're
Yeah.
like potato on toothpicks, basically,
Because Addison's is
or not
adrenal is
Addison's.
adrenal. It's yeah, I know. I'm drawing a blank too. I'm tired from traveling. But
Let's see here. It's but it's a hormonal thing, and so this is, you know, this is evidence of it. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. Oh, somebody out there has to know.
yeah. So yeah, no, there's definitely soy production is huge in this country because it's used the soybean oil is used so much in packaged foods and it's used to and he says it's used in animal feed as well. So they're feeding it to the animals and then of course if I figure it can't make them healthy, can't make them feel good if they're eating the wrong food for their diet as well.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Cushing's. Sorry, guys.
Cushing.
I have to come full circle here. Cushing syndrome. And
Cushing
those
syndrome.
that's also the reason why people get the buffalo hump back here.
Oh
Which
yeah.
I have noticed since I've probably age 35 on, I've had a little bit of that. And, causes the round puffy face. And I mean, not to say that all these people have Cushing's, obviously, but it
Right.
just, it goes to show it's a hormonal thing,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked about legumes as well, which were interesting. He talked about the phytic acid in relation to legumes. That the phytic acid in legumes reduces the absorption of magnesium, calcium, iron, zinc, and B12. And one thing that was interesting, he said a vegetarian will tell you that phytates can be avoided with proper preparation procedures, sprouting, soaking, grinding, and boiling. But research tells us that only 50% are removed with an 18-hour soak.
Oh
Given the
wow.
North American norm, given the North American norm of prioritizing speed and convenience over quality is high, it is highly unlikely that the majority would practice such a tedious process. So ironically, they're not getting these minerals and vitamins, that's just not being absorbed.
And I remember years ago that if it took that much effort to make a food edible, is it actually a food? I mean,
that's a very good question. Yeah, that's the question. It takes all that to make it so you can even have the absorption of the nutrients, then maybe we're not meant to eat it. Yeah. So he said, ironically, the minerals we fail to absorb in plant-based alternatives are the same ones excluded in a diet devoid of animal protein. So he said, in other words, vegetarians are going to extremes to make a food edible that would otherwise not be when perfectly safe and more nutritious foods like meat are available. So that's kind of is what you kind of said, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go extremes to even make it edible. So is it really food?
And
Yeah,
it's
it's like
also,
plants don't want us to eat them or something.
oh yeah, it's almost like they're poison, right?
It's almost like they really don't want us, to eat them.
It also says that legumes are high in lectins, which can cause intestinal damage, as I think we can all attest to, regardless of whether you have the diseases it's talking about. But it says it increases the risk of autoimmune diseases like IBS, Crohn's, and colitis.
And of course, I had to make sure that I took note. IBS is not an autoimmune disease. So that should not be listed as an autoimmune disease. But the other two are. So
well, I feel like IBS is something that is so vague. Sometimes they'll just label something that when it may not even be that.
And I know I heard that all the time, when I was working in GI, and it is because you have to rule out other things before you can say it's IBS. And honestly,
to get an official diagnosis, yes, but
if it doesn't respond, though, like if it doesn't respond to what they use to treat IBS, then they should come back and question whether it's an accurate diagnosis or not. But the bottom line with IBS is that, IBS, there's no actual damage to the mucosa. There's nothing wrong with the mucosa of the colon. It's not autoimmune. It's just that your nerves are not functioning properly. They're either hyperactive or hypoactive. So but we see people that eat carnivore that can get corrected by changing your diet.
Yeah.
Which is, So they take a little step by telling people to get rid of FODMAPs, but so that helps only a certain portion of the people.
Mm-hmm.
So they're probably not getting rid of everything they should get rid of. All right.
And then also lectins can also bind to insulin receptors, which increases our risk of leptin resistance. As we've discussed, adequate leptin levels are critical in determining our metabolic rate and suppressing fat storage and hunger hormones. If our cells become resistant to leptin, we become more prone to overeating and underburning. And I think this paragraph is so important and such a huge reason of why many of us have the problem to begin with.
Yeah, that's true. And we're eating all these things that are supposed to be considered healthy to lose weight and get healthy, but yet look at what they contain. They contain lectins, they contain phytates, they contain isoflavonoids and phytoestrogens and everything that we don't need that messes up with our hormones and not even getting absorbed properly.
I think it's amazing that, in reading this chapter, that this guy wrote it in 2014. I don't know, there's probably not much that we disagree with now, but there's, with Dr. Anthony Chaffee's lecture, Plants Are Trying to Kill You, and some other talks along that venue where it kind of questions whether plants don't present any risk at all. So I think it's just amazing that this guy had this insight in 10 years before this became a little bit more common knowledge than it is today.
True. Yeah. So he does talk a little bit about the difference between grain-fed versus grass-fed meats, and talks about some studies that were basically wrong. Like this, I mentioned this 2009 study ended up having to correct their results because they lumped in processed meat with other red meat, and They initially said that the high consumption of red meat was related to higher all-cause mortality, and but then they also said higher all-cause mortality remains significant only for processed meat. So they lumped it all together in the results, and of course that doesn't help. It helps the narrative for the big food companies that don't want you to eat
but
meat,
I'm still confused as to what they call processed meat.
I'm assuming like lunch meat,
because
salami.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, and I don't think that stuff is particularly bad for you. I mean, obviously, a person would, try something, introduce it or whatever, and then if it bothers them, they would take it out. But
yeah,
I mean, everything is processed to an extent. So it's like, what point is meat processed meat? I mean, is it bacon? Is it, sausage? I mean, what is
I don't know.
meat? But I mean, I eat spam
it
and
goes
bologna.
back to the nitrates and the nitrites that they think are so bad for you that, but then they're okay with celery powder being added, which is, contains more than what's in the processed meat.
Yep.
Right. And even back when we were reading Dr. Berry's book, he addressed the whole thing about the nitrates and the nitrites.
Yeah, that's where I learned that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, and when you think
about
it, all these other little things.
13, so, maybe he didn't know, or maybe not as much was known about that. I don't know.
Perhaps not. And of course, the natural chemicals and the anti-nutrients that the plants produce all on their own are probably the most dangerous thing about eating plants, even more so than the pesticides, according to the books we've read so far. So, I thought it was interesting. So I'm really glad this last section, before he talks about monocrops being murder and, that all the animals that are lose their life from these monocrops, the soil depleted. But I thought it was interesting. He put this section here about not all meat eaters are created equal. And he compared, because they always talk about the Seventh-day Adventists and how they have lower cancer mortality rates, and they attribute it to them not eating meat. I'm real glad he addressed this, because he said the problem is it's unfair to compare this group to a meat eater in regular society, because Seventh-day Adventists are a secluded group who don't smoke or drink and likely don't engage in other life-shortening lifestyle choices. He says a meat-eating equivalent would be the Mormons, who follow comparable principles and similar daily practices. When comparing the Mormons' risk of cancer and mortality to the U.S. average, the results are equally, if not more impressive. They have a 22% lower cancer risk, 34% lower mortality from colon cancer. Further, despite the lower risk of colon cancer for Seventh-day Adventists, they seem to experience higher rates of other types of cancer, such as Hodgkin's disease, malignant melanoma, brain, skin, uterine, prostate, endometrial, cervical, and ovarian. Which is interesting, because just somebody that I know who's been vegetarian her whole life is trying to recover from malignant melanoma. And I know other vegetarians that have dealt with breast cancer. So it's not like, I agree with him. It's not a fair comparison, So I thought it was really good that he compared it to the Mormons, they also supposedly avoid smoking and alcohol and all these other things too. So, but they eat meat.
Well, and then a lot of these people, at least if they're, culturally, well, I don't know how to put it, but basically, a lot of them will make more, use fresh food, fresh ingredients, whole foods, stuff like that. They're cooking a lot. Maybe it's a little stereotypical, but I mean, they've got these big Mormon families, and they're probably not eating out on a regular basis, So I think a big part of what can contribute to their health as well, both of those groups, is, eating more natural whole foods. I mean, there's so many factors is what I'm trying to get at, it's
But it's good. There's another group that can be compared with eliminating some of those confounding factors that are a little more comparable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because typically people who eat a lot of meat are also pretty much rebelling against government guidelines and for everything. And they've been, it's been found that often they'll drink and smoke and all these other things that can be factors. So, alrighty. Well, that's pretty much. You guys want to cover anything for the rest of the chapter? Or are we pretty much?
I do like one of the last little. It's not really a quote, but it's like a little highlighted area. It says, on average, meat-eating women live 32% longer than vegetarian women.
Oh,
glad you
well,
brought that
okay.
Love it. Love it. I love it with vegetarian women.
And then the last quote in the book, or in this second chapter, is, all truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as self-evident. Arthur Schopenhauer.
Isn't that funny? Yeah. It goes through. Yeah, which we saw that when we were studying like nursing school, they were studying about how the whole hand washing thing came to be.
Yes, that now
it's like, well, that's common sense, right? But it wasn't back then. And the doctor that was trying to get people to start washing their hands between surgeries and delivering babies, he was not well received at all.
Mm-mm.
He was basically murdered.
Yeah.
He wasn't just not well received. He was basically murdered by the, what was it? What do you call him? Was he like in a mental institution? And it was like
he was put in a psychiatric hospital, right?
Yeah, and they beat him up, basically, manhandled him and killed him.
Yeah, so that's true. All
right,
so you want to do
after all because he was wanting to point out something that to us is very obvious.
Well, the crazy thing is that he had the evidence and he had the data to support what he was saying, and they still did that to him.
Yeah.
Which is insane. All right, so are we going to do mistakes 3 and 4?
Yeah, I like 2 chapters. I feel like it gives us more time to, have our little excursions. Of course, it was probably more drawn out this week just because we're catching up, But yeah, let's do 3 and 4.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
Well, it was so good to see you guys, and
it was great to see
everybody who watches the replay and anyone who joined us. We didn't really throw comments up on the screen this time, but maybe next time. We're getting back into the swing of things.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Well, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
All right.
Have a great week.